So at the end of the previous chapter, we saw Izuku finally come back to UA to take on Shigaraki, and in this chapter it's revealed, or should I say confirmed, that he was assisted by Star and Stripes pilot friends who took him there on their jets. And once he showed up, he quickly smashed Shigaraki in a pretty cool sequence, and afterwards Shigaraki says, is he even stronger than before? This is in reference to when they had fought in the previous war, of course, and he says that glow around him, just like the third. He's talking about the third user's Fa Jin quirk, of course, which allows Izuku to build up kinetic energy and release it, and we saw him do this as soon as he got there, in combination with slingshotting himself off of those poles with a black whip quirk as well. This is his faux 100% move that he does, and I guess this is the all for one portion of the consciousness here that is saying this, because only All for One would know the third user of One for All, because he fought him a long time ago. I guess almost 100 years, because it's the second and the third user of One for All that were the spearheads of that uprising against All for One back in the day. And after Izuku knocked Shigaraki / All for One away with this smash, he looks around the battlefield and he sees that everyone looks like they're dead and or dying. And he notices that Bakugo is the most dead looking there with the All Might card next to him. And this is because Bakugo is still technically dead right now, I guess, right? And naturally, Izuku seeing this, he's going to freak out, and Shigaraki / All for One is further trying to egg him on, because that's what he ultimately wanted here. That's why he went after Bakugo in the first place, because he wanted Izuku to go into his freak out rage mode, because he saw him do this in the previous war when they had fought, when he stabbed Bakugo through the stomach. But first, let's talk about the sponsor of this video, Raid Shadow Legends. That's right, guys, Raid Shadow Legends is pretty much the first game to bring you a true console level experience to your phone. Now, me personally, my favorite aspect of Raid Shadow Legends are the bosses and their awesome designs, which are also terrifying. So that's why I want to give you my top 3 scariest bosses. So number 3 has got to be the Fire Knight. I mean, this guy has a lack of a face and therefore lack of emotions. And number 2, we have the Dragon. His fiery eyes and just gnarly teeth. And number 1, of course, is the Spider. I mean, look at this thing. You may legitimately get nightmares from facing this boss. But aside from the scary bosses, there's also new stuff going on in Raid, because they just released a giant new feature called Awakening, and a brutal new dungeon, the Iron Twins Fortress. And if you're good enough to take them down, you'll see a huge payoff: being able to awaken your champions. Awakening your champions lets you choose a powerful blessing that can transform how they perform in battle. But wait, here's the actual big news, because Raid has just released a super powered legendary version of everybody's favorite champion, Death Knight. But the best part is everyone can get him for free just by logging in. All you have to do is log in and play Raid for 7 days between now and October 27th. And you can add Ultimate Death Knight to your collection. But there's more, because you can also use the DK Rises promo code for a bunch of free items to instantly level your new strongest champion all the way to level 50. So if you haven't started playing Raid yet, click my link in the description or scan my QR code right here on the screen, and you'll get unique bonuses worth $30. We're talking a free epic champion, Rektar Drat, 200,000 silver, 1 energy refill, 1 XP boost, and 1 ancient shard, so you can summon awesome champions as soon as you get in the game. All this treasure will be waiting for you here. Further in this chapter, he says, in this state of rage, his movements are bound to be overly hasty and predictable. A well-placed counterattack should break his spine in two. So, like I said, he's trying to use this to his advantage to ultimately defeat Izuku and eventually take One for All from him. And Izuku does freak out big time and goes back into that rage mode. He's even biting onto one of his black whips. This is a pretty emotional panel here. It looks great. But before he can completely explode, Mirio shows up and he's like, it's all right, Deku. It'll be fine. Everyone's still breathing. Right now, Edshot is saving Bakugo's life from inside of him. So yeah, I guess that means that Bakugo is still kind of dead, I guess. But I guess this also means that Edshot hasn't completed his ultimate ability surgery thing that he's doing, where he like condenses himself into all of these strings, and he's going to go inside of Bakugo's chest, heal the damaged portions of his heart and lungs while also becoming them, but then on top of that giving him like internal CPR, all of this at the cost of his own life, of course. And considering the state that we see Bakugo in and what Mirio's saying here, I guess it still hasn't completed yet. But then after like a little back and forth between All For One and Mirio's words are enough to make Izuku remember things that people have told him throughout his life, such as like All Might and Star and Stripes pilots, but then he also remembers what Banjo, the 5th user of One For All, had told him, where it's like it's okay to be angry. The vital thing to do is keep your emotions under control. And this, of course, in reference to when he had first met Banjo in the Vestige world. When he told him, like, listen, when you use this power out of anger, it'll really start working for you. What really matters is controlling your heart. It's okay to get mad. That rage can be the source, but in the meantime, you gotta control it better. And that's essentially what Izuku is doing here. Because after he remembers these things and what Mirio had just said, and he reverts back to a calmer, more serious Izuku. And I guess that's how he's going to be going forward here. And this is the best way to utilize One For All. But after Izuku calms down, we come to the final page of the chapter where he says, All For One, is Shigaraki still there? And this is an awesome panel. I really like this one, where we see him using Black Whip as like a scarf, staring down Shigaraki / All For One with all of the vestiges behind him. Like, this is pretty cool stuff. But also, in my opinion, this is kind of setting up the end game of this arc / fight, I suppose, because him asking All For One if Shigaraki is still in there is how this is pretty much going to conclude. And I think it was set up in chapter 305 as well, because if we go back to that chapter, we see Izuku in the Vestige world speaking to all of the previous users of One For All, and Nana asks him, like, will you have the resolve to kill Shigaraki if that's what it takes? And Izuku says, I could see he was hurting, or rather I could feel it. When Shigaraki's consciousness invaded One For All, when he was focusing so hard on his dream, I felt it inside, all that rage. I felt a little boy crying. And then we see like this vision of little Izuku walking up to like little Tenko. And then he says, One For All is a power meant for saving, not killing. Maybe there's no other way besides killing. And I don't know what I'm going to do when the time comes, but I want to save that little boy. And like I said, that's pretty much setting up what's going to happen, because it also correlates with what we've been seeing happening inside of Shigaraki / All For One for like the last 30 something chapters or so. We've seen like there's this offshoot of Tenko's consciousness inside there as well. We have like the Shigaraki consciousness, the All For One consciousness, but now there's like Tenko, and he's being bound by like all of these hands. And he also originally called out to Izuku saying that he was a true hero. So what I'm assuming is going to happen here is some way or another, Izuku is going to break through to that Tenko consciousness, and I guess it's going to break out of those hands that are holding him back, and he'll eventually become the dominant personality here. And what's going to happen after that, you know, with Tenko being inside of this monstrous body that he has become, not really sure. I mean, it's possible that he could just morph back to being Tenko again, because, you know, it was established in the previous chapter that Shigaraki's body can like modify itself to the specific situation that it's in and whatever the ideal form requires. And in theory, if Tenko takes over, then maybe it could just morph back into being Tenko, you know, possibly. I mean, it's not going to completely erase the fact that he is still this crazy quirk singularity monstrosity, but I don't know, it's something, I guess. Or Eri shows up randomly and then just rewinds him. I mean, that's always a possibility too. Some way or another, Izuku is going to break through to the Tenko consciousness, and I think that's how this will ultimately end. Let me know what you think about this in the comments, guys, and if you liked the video, please give it a like, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.